on. All right, here we go. Shalom, family. Listen, Donald Trump did not have such a great week. Now, we know when it started out, he was running from reporters every time they brought up the Epstein files. He was running, he was trying to drag Marjorie Taylor Greene, and all she's doing is requesting that everything be released, regarding the Epstein files. So Donald Trump was calling her a traitor and trying to drag her. Well, at least by Wednesday, all of a sudden, he started agreeing to release the Epstein files. And the only people he wants to go after are Democrats. And, Donald Trump has been acting like somebody that have a lot to hide. And at this point, it's no telling what kind of alterations they have made to those files. Because I know one thing, when him and Elon were feuding, Elon said he is all over, Donald Trump is all over the Epstein files. And you can see when those 20,000 emails were released, Donald Trump he was all over those emails. And the ones I read, it looks like him and Jeffrey Epstein had fell out. Well, you also know last month they had an election, I believe New Jersey and Virginia or West Virginia. Well, anyway, the Republicans lost pretty badly. And a lot of it have to do with the inflation, Donald Trump's policies, these tariffs that he's done. And he literally has wrecked the economy with those tariffs. And now they're looking at the polls and it don't look good for 2026 during the midterm elections. They said the Republicans are way down. I don't know. How do you turn that around? Not that I'm concerned. I really don't care because neither party help us. So anyway, Donald Trump is sinking in the polls really bad. For somebody, usually presidents don't do so bad in their first term. Donald Trump, by far, is making history. There are so many people that feel negative about him and his presidency right now. It's not even funny. And y'all, but you know what? Lisa Williams, you brought up Cash Patel. Do y'all see how they're dragging the MAGA crowd is dragging these East Indians? Including JD Vance's wife. Oh, they are trashing these East Indians all over the place. I guess they're just giving them a wake up call, letting them know y'all are not white people. Yeah, they're reminding you of this. And they're doing the same thing with Vivek. That's why he is never going to win the governorship of Ohio. They don't want no brown man being the governor of Ohio, you know? And we already know what they act like. We saw it in Bobby Jindal and what's her name? Nikki Haley. Y'all, when you East Indians get over here, y'all try to act like white people, and you're not white people. And eventually they get around to telling you. And that's what they have done with Cash Patel. They have done it with Vivek. And now Dinesh D'Souza, they have told him, and now they're getting all upset and screaming racism. But when we talk about how bad this place is when it comes down to race, they always try to make it seem like we're imagining the entire thing. But when it's happening to them, now all of a sudden it's real. It's just like that Candace Owens stuff. She tries to say racism is over. And then when she start getting dragged, all of a sudden racism exists in her situation. I mean, y'all are a joke, all of you. All of you are a joke, for real. So, Lisa Anderson, thank you so much for the super sticker and your support for my channel. So, we're going to get into this. There's a lot of people that are online, and you can find the videos all over the place, that are burning their MAGA hats. But, in all honesty, I don't feel sorry for you MAGAs and you white farmers, because y'all all voted for Trump. So now that you're suffering at his hands, I mean, why should anybody feel sorry for you? I don't. So let's get into this, y'all. Let me share my screen so we can get started. Okay. Over here? No. Okay, here we go. Please give me a one if you can see my screen. Yeah, they're all over burning their hats. I mean, I really don't care what y'all burn. I really, to be honest with you, those videos are not even interesting. So what, you burning some ugly red hat you bought? So what? So what? You know, that's just more symbolism that y'all believe in. See, y'all are the ones that are big on idols and symbolism and all that stuff. Y'all are really heavily into idolatry, you know, but you always try to put it on us, but it's really you. You know, you don't see us running out and buying a bunch of Biden hats and walking around with some slogan that Biden said. We don't do no crap like that. But all Trump got to do is get up and talk about some make America great again, and y'all just lose your minds and start paying $40 for that basic looking hat. 40 and $50 for a very basic looking hat. I don't even feel bad for you. You deserve to get ripped off. All right, y'all, let's get started. For years, Donald Trump has been the gravitational force at the center of the Republican Party. But what happens when that gravity starts to weaken? This week, we saw something rare. Republican lawmakers openly resisting Trump, not just quietly grumbling behind closed doors. That's a seismic shift in political alignment. Let me ask, have you ever watched a team suddenly stop following their captain's calls? That's what we're witnessing. The old theory was simple. Trump's base was so powerful that any dissent spelled instant political doom. But now that fear is eroding. Why? Because lawmakers are sensing the voters themselves might be changing. Now, you might be thinking, isn't this just typical pre election drama? Not quite. This is more like the early warning tremors before a political earthquake. This isn't just about one tough week, it's about a foundational shift in party discipline and voter psychology.
Well, well, well. More bad news for Donald Trump. The most unpopular president in all of American history at this point in his term remains the most unpopular president in all of American history at this point in his term. I've got some new polling data here from the American Research Group, and it is not good for the orange buffoon. Let me read a little of this to you. Only 37% of Americans say they approve of the way Donald Trump is handling his job as president, and 60% say they disapprove. Not good. In September, which for you mindless Trump cultists out there, that would have been last month, 37% of Americans approved of the way Trump was handling his job, which is the same. But back then, 58% disapproved. So his disapproval has gone up in just a matter of weeks, while his approval rating remains in the toilet.
And that's a development worth unpacking. Let's zoom in on one major flashpoint: the congressional battle over Jeffrey Epstein related documents. Trump threw his full weight behind efforts to block their release, calling lawmakers and even threatening to back their rivals in primaries. But here's the conflict. For the first time in years, prominent Republicans didn't fold. Several defied Trump and voted for transparency. Why is this so significant? Because political intimidation, think of it like a boss threatening to fire anyone who steps out of line, usually works when the boss is feared. This time, that mechanism broke down.
GOP lawmakers calculated that the risk of angering voters by hiding documents was greater than the risk of crossing the president. That's a realignment in risk assessment. Let me put it another way. Imagine a CEO whose staff finally starts questioning orders in public meetings. The old power dynamics no longer hold. By facing down Trump's pressure, Republicans sent a message, and the White House heard it loud and clear. Presidential muscle isn't what it used to be. Now, let's talk numbers specifically.
A new Reuters poll shows President Trump's approval rating falling to its lowest level. Now, this is apparently because of prices and the Epstein files. His approval rating sits at 39%. That is down 9 points from when he took office.
The latest Fox News polling. You might assume conservative polls would be friendly ground for Trump, right? But the data tells a different story. Here's the setup. Fox News polls show rising concern among Republican voters about the economy and, crucially, declining trust in Trump's ability to deliver relief. That's what political scientists call erosion of confidence. Why is polling so consequential? Think of it like a weather forecast for politicians. It doesn't guarantee a storm, but it lets you know when conditions are changing fast. Now, you might ask, are polls really that important? Well, in modern politics, they shape both donor behavior and voter turnout. When even core supporters start wavering, party leaders pay attention.
This NBC News poll here is our first poll since the spring. And what we find is a mood that has soured on Trump and the Republican Party in that time. An approval rating of 43% now in our new poll for Donald Trump. But check out our previous poll. This was back in March. 47-51. He was starting out now well into his first year of the second term, down to a 43% job approval rating for President Trump. This, of course, coming against the backdrop of the government shutdown. We asked the question, who do you blame? 42% say Democrats in Congress, but 52% say it's either the president's fault or his party in Congress's fault.
This is striking, Steve, because here we are a month into this shutdown now, and more Americans still pointing the finger at Republicans for this.
Certainly seems like it could be related to some of the numbers we're seeing here. Now, check this out. Talk about Trump and his job performance on particular issues. Again, basically a year ago, he was elected. We asked folks, do you think he's delivering here? He does get decent marks when it comes to border security and immigration. Slight majority say he has lived up to what he promised to do there. But on none of these other topics do you see that number getting past the mid-40s. In fact, the low 30s down here on the economy questions.
Well, and part of why President Trump was elected on the economy, now it seems like it could be a headwind heading into Tuesday for Republicans.
And a huge shift, obviously, from his first terms when he actually did get good marks there. So you talk about heading into this Tuesday. We asked folks about their enthusiasm for the midterm elections. That'll be next year, 2026. But this was astounding. 66%, two-thirds of all voters have a high level of interest. We will find that number typically on the eve of the actual midterm election. This is a year out. And this is what's encouraging for Democrats, troubling for Republicans. More enthusiasm for Democrats, that high level of interest. It's about 3/4 of Democrats. It is a little bit lower there for Republicans, and that could feed into the second part of this equation, and that is we asked folks, midterm election, which party would you want to control Congress? And the Democrats have now, in our poll, this is significant, opened up an 8-point advantage over Republicans. We checked this back in the spring. It was dead even. That 8-point level is typically what you would find for a party that's poised for a big midterm election. That's the kind of lead Democrats had when they swept to power in Congress in Trump's first term. So we'll see if that holds now going forward, but that's a potentially big shift. Are there notes of caution here for Democrats? Yes, there are. This is the big one right here. The party's image. Democrats only 28% positive. Look at that, 53 negative. Republicans, it's only 37 and 46. Democrats are 25 points underwater. And we should also note, this is coming, as we say, during the shutdown. And our pollsters do note that sometimes during shutdowns, there can be a little volatility in these numbers. So I think it really heightens the stakes for Tuesday night in these elections, and especially in New Jersey, because Republicans think they can win that one. And if Republicans can win in New Jersey, despite the numbers we're showing here, they're going to be feeling a little bit more encouraged heading into next year. But if the Democrats have a big night, these numbers, a lot to say about it.
With Fox News data reflecting a dip in Trump's standing, the party's once solid wall of loyalty is looking much more porous. Let's pull back the curtain on a deeper force driving all this: economic anxiety, inflation, and high prices. What economists call cost push inflation are squeezing family budgets. Now, administration officials insist the macroeconomic outlook big picture indicators like GDP growth are stabilizing. But here's the conflict: Americans aren't feeling relief in their daily lives. Let me put it in practical terms. If your paycheck buys less at the grocery store, statistics about GDP don't mean much. That's the classic disconnect between economic data and lived experience. Now, you might be wondering, can politicians actually fix this?
All right. We want to remind everybody that Fox News is not news. It is entertainment for the rubes. It is a propaganda channel that is a well documented liar. They've had to pay $1 billion in settlements for lying to their customers, and their customers still run back every day to get a serving of the hate, lies. And at the end of the day, their number one mission is to build up McCankle's taco tits. Like that's what, and they're making billions of dollars for it, that they paid $1 billion settlement and they're still going. It's bananas. But I like to check in with what they're covering with all of this Epstein stuff, because they used to cover that all the time. Well, let's take a little check in here. Media Matters reports that since this Monday, Fox News has spent 85 minutes covering an American Eagle commercial featuring Sydney Sweeney, devoting over 20 segments to it. In the same time period, Fox spent just 3 minutes discussing the Trump administration's handling of the Jeffrey Epstein files. I had no idea what was going on with the American Eagle commercial until I saw this tweet. So then I researched it, and there's this whole conspiracy theory right now going on Fox News and on the right-wing media algorithm, wherein they have manufactured that white liberal women are madder than hell about this American Eagle ad because the actress or the model Sweeney says, American Eagle, I have great genes, Jeans. And Fox News is alleging that on the right, everybody's losing their minds saying it's Nazi propaganda. Number one, could give two shits about the American Eagle ad. Her saying, I have great genes, I could give two shits about it. We have much larger fish to fry. But this reminded me of a couple of years ago, I had this interior design client, and I'm at her house, and I, delivered some furniture. And as I'm leaving, and I knew she always had Fox News on in the background, but she had said to me, like, I just can't believe what's happening. And I said, what's happening? And this was during the Biden administration. And she said, on the left, they want people to call their mothers birthing people. And I'm a mom. Are you a mom? Do you want your kids to say, hey, birthing person? And I go, I've literally never heard of this, Amy. I've never heard of that this is a thing. And so I get in the car, get back to the office, go on Fox News, and it's this big thing. The left wing is they're killing the word mom, and everybody has to call everybody birthing people. And this is what Fox does. They manufacture this faux shit like the litter boxes, right, that mean nothing when
The answer? Only partially. But when voters feel pain, they want someone to blame, and right now, Trump is struggling to convince them he's got the solution. This pocketbook pressure is feeding directly into his political vulnerability, magnifying every other problem on his plate. What's happening inside the Trump White House? Let me give you a peek behind the curtain. Senior staff aren't blind to these warning signs. They're tracking poll numbers and legislative defections closely. Here's the conflict. Some aides reportedly limit their exposure to negative press, but the mood inside is shifting from confidence to concern. Media insulation. That's when a team tries to shield itself from bad news, can create dangerous blind spots. I've spoken to former campaign advisors who say the biggest risk now isn't outside criticism, but internal complacency.
So the president says things are great. What do the voters say?
No, I think is the answer. 6 months in, the rules of political gravity absolutely apply to Donald Trump, and the USS Donald Trump is taking on a lot of water. What are we talking about? Trump's net approval rating. Look, he started off back in January +6 points on the net approval rating, -3 in March, -7 in May, and now he's at a term too low at -11 points. His net approval rating has dropped nearly 20 points in the aggregate since the beginning of his presidency. The American people do not like what they're seeing, and Donald Trump's administration is in a ton of trouble at this point in the minds of the American voters.
Well, on what issues do the American voters seem to disapprove of him?
They disapprove of him on all of the issues. He's underwater on all the major issues of the day. Trump's net approval rating on all the major issues, -5 points in immigration, his best issue. He's underwater. How about the economy? That was what he was elected for. -14 points. How about foreign policy? -14 points. How about trade and those tariff wars? -15 points. And of course, the Epstein case, the lowest of the bunch, -37 points, 37 points below water. My goodness gracious. On every single issue, Donald Trump is below water on all the major ones. They're all dragging him down. No matter, it seems, what Donald Trump does, the American people do not like it. And that is why at this particular point, he's at a term too low.
It's interesting because this is the issue that may be on the top of many people's minds as members of Congress head home for this extended summer recess.
And it's his worst one.
I'm not sure that House members will be excited to see that number as they leave Washington today. So where does his overall approval rating stand compared to other presidents?
Okay, I do have one piece of good news for Donald Trump, and that there is one other presidency that has a lower net approval rating at this point than this one. The bad news is that it was Donald Trump's other presidency, his first presidency, net approval rating 6 months in. The worst was in 2017. Donald Trump was 16 points underwater. The second worst, however, is this Donald Trump presidency, 11 points underwater. The average president at this point since 1953 has a +27 net approval rating. John, do some quick math with me. It seems to me that Donald Trump is about 40 points lower than the average president at this particular point. He has the second worst net approval rating at this point. He is underwater on all the major issues of the day. The bottom line is 6 months into this administration, I think that most Americans would apply the word or words disaster, terrible, awful, horrible. I think that is the way that the American people would see it at this particular point. He is so far below underwater compared to the average president. The only one he beats out is him in term number one. And I don't think that's exactly the metric he wants to be applying to himself.
Interesting to see which direction it will go next, Harriet, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike.
When you start believing your own hype, you miss critical feedback loops. Now you might be asking, can they turn the ship around? That depends on whether they face facts or keep doubling down on old strategies. The resolution? Awareness is the first step, but action has to follow, and so far the response seems hesitant at best. For years, Trump thrived on a myth of political invincibility. The perception was, if you went against him, your career was over. But what happens when that myth gets punctured? Here's the setup. Lawmakers used to see Trump as the kingmaker, the final authority. That's called perceived dominance, a psychological effect where reputation amplifies actual power. Now, the conflict. As his poll numbers slip and his ability to rally voters falters, lawmakers are recalculating. If the myth evaporates, so does the leverage.
Big news, everyone. Trump's approval rating just dropped again, and people are asking, why? What's really going on behind those numbers? According to recent polls, his popularity is falling, and it's not just a small dip. But what's driving it? Is it a backlash over his policies? Is concern growing among his base about his leadership style? Or are voters turning against him because of scandals or just fatigue? So, MAGA conservatives, does this drop change your view of President Trump? Do you still support him? Or are you starting to wonder if someone else should lead the party? And Democrats, are you surprised? Did you think his approval would tank this hard? Or is this exactly what you expected? This isn't just a political drama. A falling approval rating could affect 1. Trump's chances in the next election, 2. His influence over the Republican Party, 3. His ability to push his agenda if he were to return to power, So it's not just about numbers, it's about power. Drop a comment. What do you think is really behind this slump? And tap that follow so we can keep tracking where Trump's standing is headed next.
Let me tell you a story. In 2016, candidates who crossed Trump were almost immediately ousted. Today, some are openly challenging him and not facing instant political ruin. The real question is how fast this change will accelerate. Once political fear ebbs, it's incredibly hard to restore. So, where does all this leave us? Is this the beginning of the end for Trump's dominance, or just a rough patch he'll bounce back from? The setup is clear. Trump faces mounting challenges from rebellious lawmakers to skeptical voters. The conflict? Restoring control when the old tools of intimidation and brand loyalty are losing potency. Now, you might be thinking, hasn't he rebounded before? Absolutely. Trump is a master at narrative control and political reinvention, but the terrain is shifting. What worked in 2017 doesn't play the same in 2024. Let me put it in technological terms. It's like trying to run the latest software on outdated hardware. The environment has changed, and so must the strategy. The resolution isn't certain. But one thing's clear as the political ground moves, everyone from the White House to Congress will have to adapt or risk falling behind.
On. Y'all, you know what I predict? 2026, more of Donald Trump's cabinet, the GOP, Senate, and Congress are going to start turning against him. I think within his own party, the infighting is going to get far worse than what we're seeing right now in 2026. That's what I'm saying. So we'll see if that comes true or if it's not, or if it's going to be very much like it is now. I don't think so. I think things are going to shift real fast because Donald Trump, a lot of people are upset with him because of how this whole economy is going. They are upset about the job market, where there's right now not enough jobs to go around for all the people that are unemployed. And every time, I'm telling you, every time this man goes in the media running his mouth about tariffs, the prices always go up. And people are getting tired of all these high prices out here for the same food we've been eating all this time now costs double and triple the price. And folks are tired of it. So I think it's going to be a lot of falling out going on within the GOP as we move into 2026 and beyond. So we'll see. We shall see. But Donald Trump is steadily sinking in the polls. And I don't know what he can do to turn it around. I really don't. I think he really is the president for billionaires. Those people that were on the front row of his inauguration, that's who Donald Trump is working for. He don't give a crap about anybody else. So y'all, I'm going to go ahead and conclude. I want to again thank Lisa Anderson for the super sticker and your support for my channel. And everybody, I have another live coming up at 5:45. And this one is on the US Coast Guard changing their policies. So swastikas and things that we would see a symbol of hate, the Confederate flag, all of those things are not going to be viewed as hate anymore. So they have changed their hate policy. And we'll talk about that. And I want to thank E, one of my subscribers. He didn't want me to say his name. So I'll just call you E for sending me the story. There is a Michael Jackson impersonator by the name of Fabio. He goes by Fabio Jackson, and he is trying to say Michael Jackson was not black. Michael Jackson was of mixed race, and it has caused outrage all over TikTok. So we're going to talk about that at 8 o'clock. So, y'all, I will see you then. Thank you so much once again for your support. And thank you for watching the videos. Make sure you share the videos, like the videos. That way it can move up among the algorithm. Shalom, family.